I've made a study of entrepreneurial success. And people generally think that what you do to be successful is what you alluded to there, which is you produce a product, you have an idea, and then you launch it out into the marketplace. And it's such a wonderful product that, people beat a pathway to your door for your new mousetrap. And that's not how it happens. What happens is that people who produce products that are successful do that in dialogue with their customers. And the serial entrepreneurs know this. So if they build a new variant of something, they're talking to the people who might buy it while they build it to make sure that there's a market. Well, you did that. You said you experimented and you found that some of the things that you were talking about got a disproportionate response, and you allowed that to guide you, And so you were 17 when that happened.
Around then, yeah.
And what do you think motivated you to critique the cartoon to begin with?
I think it was I was quite wrapped up in the new atheist stuff at the time. I must have been. It's hard to remember exactly, but big sort of Richard Dawkins fan. Christopher Hitchens was a huge influence.
It must have been exciting to interview Dawkins then, eh?
It was, especially the first time, which was in I think 2019. I remember it was sort of I sort of couldn't believe that he said yes.
Right, right.
It was something so sort of casual about it. I mean, I went through the sort of Oxford University system to try and find an email address, and it was himself who responded and sort of said, yeah, sure, I was like, this is amazing.
Yeah.
The second time I spoke to him, there's something about, it's a bit like coming to America. I used to love the idea of America. I dreamed of visiting. It would have been such a dream come true to be in Los Angeles. And I remember I was in New York sometime earlier this year, I think, and I was meeting someone and I was running. I was sort of a bit late, so I'm running through Times Square with my map out, sort of like, where am I going, trying to run through. And I suddenly thought, I'm thinking to myself, I'm in Times Square.
Yeah.
I used to dream of visiting here, and I would have come out just to be here. And here I am, looking down at my phone, running through. And there was a moment of, gosh, things must have come a long way. And I guess I feel the same way by the second time I spoke to Richard Dawkins. It felt very natural and almost casual,
It's a really good thing to remember when something miraculous is happening.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, to remind yourself of that all the time.
Yeah.
When I go on stage in these lectures, so I have music at the beginning of the lecture, and that sort of sets the tone nicely, so to speak. But I always remind myself, habitually, consciously, that this is highly improbable.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, that's kind of not to do what I think you would usually do, but it's almost a bit like what prayer is.
Yeah.
Especially saying grace for
That's
dinner.
right.
People sit around a table and they say,
hey, isn't it a miracle
that
that I'm not starving?
Yeah. I'm a big fan of a secular grace. I'm a fan of a religious grace. Why not? Who cares? But taking that time to remember, even it's so weird because I found myself if I'm at dinner with some friends or something and the food gets served, and it crosses my mind. I think I'm very lucky that I've just got this food in front of me. I mean, I can take out my phone right now, and if I tap the glass in the right areas enough times, food will arrive here. That is unimaginable. That's sort of unfathomable. And so even when I'm not going to be awkward and disrupt the conversation or anything, but I'll think just in my own head, I'll sort of think, very grateful for this. And it's like, that's almost like what praying is, but it's sort of a secular version of that. And I think a lot of people are attracted to that.
Then, that religious practice of prayer, people have it confused with asking for favors.
Yeah.
Partly what you're doing is practicing.
Yeah.
Well, what are you practicing? Well, you can practice gratitude. It's a very useful practice. If you become an expert at it, your life is a lot better.
Yeah, there are different kinds of prayers. There are prayers, people do ask for things. They ask, watch over this person, help them find health. And there is a sense in which you want to say, well, if God was going to do that anyway, then your prayer is useless. And if he wasn't going to do it, is he going to change your mind based on your asking? It does seem a little bit sort of ridiculous. But then at the same time, as a friend pointed out to me recently, my friend David, is it any more mysterious that God would allow you to intervene in the world right now? Like if I say, can you pass me that glass of water? Oh, if God wanted me to have the glass of water, he would just bring the glass of water to me anyway.
There's also the case that, when my wife was ill a while ago, very ill, and there were a lot of people praying for her, and a lot of them emailed and said that. And my sister who was visiting, printed a lot of those out and put them on the walls of my wife's hospital room.
Right.
And so that was quite helpful because it's something to know that there are many people who are willing to devote a certain amount of attention to your misery, despite the fact that they don't have to do that. And, people are making a lot of complicated decisions when they're ill, especially when they're very ill, like whether or not they should live or die, for example, whether or not they're a burden to everyone. And knowing that goodwill exists is not nothing. And you might say, well, the prayers are supposed to work even if the person doesn't know about it. It's like,
that's the thing.
But yes, but there's more to it too,